Hey guys, Kenny here, Ken Small Engines. Just wrapping up. I did a ring install on a Honda GCV160 that was smoking like crazy, and I couldn't find anything really wrong with it. And the guys like change the rings, and I was like, okay, I changed the valve stem seal, and there was nothing leaking. There's nothing in the chamber. The plug is clean. Nothing in the breather. And I said, all right. So I tore the thing apart, and let me change camera here, and I'll show you the old rings. All right, here's the old rings. Now the rings are cast iron, okay, and you have a cast iron top ring and second ring, and then you have your oil rings for your third ring, which is a three-piece ring with a spreader. Let me sort these aside, I'll show you. The top ring is usually a shiny ring. It usually has like a plating on it. The bottom ring from Honda is generally a darker ring or a black ring. And when I bought these rings, the part number 131410J004, if you notice, see how it says piston second? They're labeled. So the second ring comes in a bag. The top ring says top, it comes in the bag. And then the third ring, I believe, somewhere, it just says oil ring, because the oil ring itself, oh, here it is. Let's see what we got here. The third rings, which is a three-piece design, just says, yeah, I'm right, oil, just says oil ring. And I did have a problem getting rings for this engine because I typed in the engine number that's stamped into the side of the block, and the rings that it called out, nobody had them in stock. So basically, you've got three sets of rings, and they're all different rings. It's not like you buy one ring. I mean, I bought it as a ring set and on Amazon for my particular engine, and these three bags came. All right, so these three bags were what was packaged. So they did the math, and they did all the look-seeing and figured out what stuff was and got me the right parts. But when I took out the old rings and I was looking at them, the piston and rod came out very easy, like there was not much compression or not much tension on these rings. And I was talking to Bill, guys with tools, and we were talking about it, and we're saying, what could have caused this thing to smoke like crazy? And his bet was possibly that the ring gaps lined up. So when you're looking at the piston, the gaps in the rings would line up. Now the gaps on these are supposed to be 8 to 14 thousandths. And on the new ring, I did have to gap the top ring. It was only about 5 thousandths from the factory. So I just took a stone and some emery, and I emeryed the edge, and then I stoned the edges with a stone. I have a stone there. You want to make sure you get all the burrs off rings when you put them in. Anyway, put the new ones on, and it really felt, you could feel the tension going in the bore when you put these things in. And I apologize for not filming it. It's just that the customer wanted it. I had to get it done. But I thought that the expander, the third ring expander, collapsed. Sometimes the expander collapses on itself, overlaps, and you lose tension on your rings because your third oil rings go on top of the expander. So if the expander isn't expanded, you won't get any tension and you'll blow oil like crazy. Nope, that was fine. It was good. All the ring gaps were good. Everything was good. So I put the rings next to each other. I mic'd up the cross section, and I could see I was getting about 10 thousandths difference. So 5 thousandths on the side wear. So they're pretty worn, about 5 thou on the side. The rings did wear in. But I think from looking at the inside of this engine, it looks like it was overheated a little bit from some of the coloration or discoloration. So I'm thinking these rings were overheated, the cast iron, they lost their temper, and they just didn't have enough spring. All right, it feels a little springy, but when you compared new to old, night and day. These you can compress with no force at all. The newer ones, you really had to use some force. So that's my thought on that. So if you have a Honda, a couple things. Make sure you get the right rings. Make sure you mic them up. Make sure they're the right thickness, because Honda rings come in different thicknesses. Also, the puller, I needed to borrow this puller from a friend. It's an OTC 1035 made in USA. This puller goes to almost 9 inches. The Honda flywheel is about 7. I have 6-inch pullers, but they weren't big enough. So I had to borrow a bigger puller, and you need a bigger puller to do it. There's a spot on the flywheel, 2 spots that say pull to put a puller, but you need the right size puller. So just a couple of tips about Hondas that are smoking like crazy. If the plug doesn't show any oil on it, if the combustion chamber doesn't show any oil, it can be that the rings themselves just lost tension. It's something where it drove me crazy. I'm thinking, the PCV or the seals. Nope. It was just the rings themselves lost tension. All right. And what I'll do, I'll take you outside. I'll show you this thing. It's a Craftsman Husqvarna branded. All right. There it is, GCV160. So it was smoking like a bear before. You couldn't even start it without smoke. Let's see what we got now. Let's choke it. Pull back the kill. Nothing. No smoke, no nothing. Good deal. So Honda GCV160, it needed rings. Let me shut the fuel off. It needed rings. I put in rings. It's now not smoking, but guys, it had me going. I thought it was something else. All my friends thought it was something else. So if you got a Honda smoking like crazy, for about $35, you can get a set of OEM rings shipped to your door, and maybe 2 hours labor, disassemble, assemble, maybe a couple hours. So, what are you gonna charge a customer? $100, $150, whatever. So, all right, this customer will be happy. I'm happy. That's it for now, guys. We will talk to you soon.